I want to wish all the black and brown veterans across the country a very happy Veterans Day. The Amplified team and myself are grateful for your service. And you know who else is grateful for all that you've done for America? The Democrats. Today, U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia introduced new legislation along with some of his fellow Democrats. FYI, the senator is the son of a World War II veteran. Well, his measure seeks to reimburse the surviving spouses and living descendants of black World War II service members with the benefits that they were denied. The inequitable distribution of the GI Bill kept these vets and their families from building generational wealth, getting housing, and accessing higher education. It warms my heart that, finally, these veterans are hopefully, or I should say, their families are going to get their due, and that the lawmakers are showing love to veterans right now today. Let's hope, though, that every day these lawmakers are showing love to veterans and making sure that they have the services that they need. I have to say, too, that I want to take a pause for a moment and to celebrate the legacy of veterans in my own family. I was raised by a veteran, my pop-up, my grandfather, James Mills Sr., who served in the Navy for 21 years. And interestingly enough, my other grandfather also served in the Navy for over 20 years. And it was interesting growing up in kind of the shadow of military service, because I was always very clear about how my grandfather's service actually helped to move my family out of poverty and into the middle class. And I always wondered if that was unique to their generation, because my grandparents were people who left South Carolina during Jim Crow, part of the Great Migration, and left in the late 50s, and were able to move forward in their lives through military service with being able to raise a family, travel all over the country. My father grew up in California, and then ultimately to buy a home. And I was raised with a middle-class lifestyle by blue-collar workers who were civil servants. Because of the training that my pop-up got in the Navy, he was an expert in air conditioning and refrigeration, and went on to have a very long career in civil service, running the entire air conditioning and refrigeration plant on McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey, which is where I grew up. And I know quite a bit about this because he used to take me to work, which was pretty cool. But during that generation's time, it is interesting to me how black people who didn't have many options in America were able to take advantage of the opportunity to be able to grow and thrive despite maybe not having some of the education that others had, and certainly dealing with so much discrimination as black people in this country. I wonder if that is true today, and I'm excited to have Chad Williams, the chair of the Department of African and African American Studies at Brandeis, with me tonight to talk about the state of veterans in America and kind of where we've come and where we're going with regards to economic mobility with the military. Chad, Professor Williams, thank you so much for being here on Amplified. Welcome.
It's a great pleasure.
I gotta say, it was nice to see Senator Warnock, of all people, African-American man, to introduce that bill today on the floor. And I'm just wondering, as someone who has studied blacks in the military, what your thoughts are on it.
I think it's an incredibly powerful act. The fact that he recognizes the inequalities that existed specifically related to the GI Bill. The GI Bill was arguably one of the most monumental pieces of legislation in American history, completely transformed the American economy, provided the tools for a generation of veterans to ascend to the middle class through home ownership, through college education, through the whole host of benefits that the GI Bill offered. And the fact that African Americans, for the most part, were not able to benefit from the GI Bill has ramifications for the wealth gap today, and for the senator to recognize that and to approach it really as a form of reparations is, I think, incredibly poignant.
I love that you talk about that as reparations, and I really want to get into that because there's so much that's lacking and missing now. I wonder if my story is unique in what you have just found and studied. Like I shared, I think about my family, and I have uncles, I have cousins who have served, and for the most part, people who stayed in for a significant amount of time came out with, at minimum, a skilled trade that they were able to then employ and outside of the service. And for us, generationally, it mattered. It really did matter. And I wonder, what you could share with us that you've seen with regards to how military service may have been a pathway out of poverty for Black families and had something to do with economic mobility.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing your story, and hearing you talk, it resonated so powerfully because, in part, that's my story as well. My grandfather served in World War II, served in Korea, grew up in Jim Crow, Alabama, in a small town called Jacksonville. And serving in the military was the avenue, was the opportunity for him, my father, my aunts and uncles to get out of the South. My father recently told me a story about my granny and granddaddy, and how when he received the opportunity to be stationed at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, he called my granny and said, "I want you to get on a train and come to the military base with me." And my father still remembers that moment when my granny said, "We're going north," and getting on the train and crossing the Mason-Dixie line, and how excited she was to be a military wife and to be on the military base with all those other military wives. And that moment was really transformative for my family, for my father, who went to college, who became an attorney, and for me and my sister, and really our entire family unit. The fact that service in the military provided the opportunity for my grandfather to get out of the South, but also to have a career, to be able to provide the economic foundation for my family's success, I think is the story of countless African American families in this country.
For sure. And I wonder, Professor, if that is generational, because I'm thinking about the time and, the lack of anything, frankly. My family fled poverty and Jim Crow South, and it was not a very nice situation, to say the least. They were broke and they were trying to figure it out. And so to some degree, I think the argument could have been made that, you got to make a way, and any way was going to be better than what might have been in front of them at that time. I think now, though, that was a different time in history where military service was a bit of a gateway to an American middle class. For Black people now, that's not necessarily the case anymore, right? Like I'm thinking about all the homeless vets that we see and the current evidence that we have that's growing, that service members and their families have become increasingly dependent on things like food pantries and government assistance. And I wonder just, with regards to the evolution of the military, at what point did this shift? The way that you and I are maybe romanticizing and thinking about military service for our families and the realities of what veterans are facing today. What was the shift there?
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful question, and a very complex question, because when we talk about Black military service, I mean, we really are going back to the American Revolution, and especially going back to the Civil War and post-Civil War era during Reconstruction, when African Americans had the opportunity to serve in the military in significant numbers. And it was really during that moment when military service became explicitly linked to opportunities for upward mobility economically, but also the symbolism that being in the military carried, right? When we think about class and class mobility in the context of African American history, it's not simply a matter of wealth and income. It's also about social status, right? And serving in the military, being a soldier, carried a very powerful social status for African Americans, particularly in the 19th and early 20th century. What it represented in terms of staking claim to African American citizenship at a time when the majority of African Americans were being denied their basic citizenship rights. And I think we tend to lose sight of that when we talk about the history of African Americans in the military
Mm,
and just the very powerful racial and political significance that it has historically held. Now, when we talk about the current state of
yeah.
African Americans in the military, it's really a reflection of how this country has neglected its soldiers and neglected its veterans in particular. And I think there's a racialized aspect to that as well.
And a classism for sure. I mean, you're talking about the dignity and the respect that came
Sure.
with wearing a uniform. I think now of the predatory nature of recruitment into the service, and the way that, our boys in particular, but now increasingly more girls too, who are growing up in poverty in urban areas, have like on every single corner some kind of armed service recruitment situation to try to drag them into being enlisted, and they're, dangling the idea of benefits and housing at them because they're
Mhm.
assuming there's no other way, but not necessarily
Right.
treating them well. And I think about it like that because I'm contrasting it to, I have a young cousin right now who is at West Point, the first member of our family
Mm.
to actually be in officer training and to go to one of the elite,
Wow.
illustrious, military academies. Very different than the recruitment at the corner store. And so I'm curious in our, we only have a
Absolutely.
minute or so, but could you just kind of speak to us a little bit about where we are with the class divide and how that's racialized in the military?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really have to go back to 1973 when the military transitioned to an all volunteer force in the aftermath of Vietnam. And the military made a very concerted and deliberate effort to target working class and even more importantly, lower class Americans and African Americans in particular. And that has continued. Really up until the present. Now, when we think about what happened, especially during the 1980s and 1990s, when we have significant numbers of African Americans, really disproportionate to their percentage of the American population, joined in the military, but also able to take advantage of the benefits of the military, we have a growing number of African American soldiers and veterans who are then able to ascend into the middle class, right? So I
Hmm.
think when we think about the military today, especially going back to the generational aspects of Black military service that you alluded to, that's a really important part of the current state of African Americans in the military, particularly at places like West Point. I think, for the most part, you can trace those generational lineages. Now, when we look at kind of from the ground up, when we look at the state of the Army, when we look at the state of kind of your average soldier, who is, on the front lines, so to speak. I think that's when we really get into this class divide and the lack of economic opportunities that exist for African American working class people in the civilian sector.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Chad Williams, thank you again so much for your time. Professor, this is so fascinating to me, and I love talking about Black folks in the military, and I would love to have you back at some point to talk more about this. Thank you.